Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to Divine Relationship Recovery, which is brought to you by Enlightened World Network and Speak Up and Empower Spiritual Transformation. We're so glad you're with us today. Before Deb comes on as the co-host, hi, Deb. Before Deb comes on, I'd like to share a little bit about some things that we have going that are really exciting. We've been a little busy behind the scenes. So what we do at Enlightened World Network is we bring you a meditation a day. Every day someone comes on. It's probably different people every day. Sometimes we have the same people that come on intermittently, but we try to find people that will provide an uplifting meditation. And on Sundays, we provide a silent meditation. Deb and Ruth and I are behind the scenes, sending energy, focusing in on what Spirit is saying as you listen to some soothing music and go into a meditative state. That's 10 o'clock in the morning every Sunday. What else do we have going on? We have a day of transformation coming up on the 22nd of March, and we will be live streaming for 13 hours straight. We will, in that time, have 2 silent meditations, one for individual healing and one for planetary healing. If you would like to be involved in those, let us know, because you don't have to even be on camera. You can call in or you can come in and turn your webcam off. There's no anything being heard. There's no sound, so you don't have to talk. You don't have to be saying anything. You just sit there and send out healing energy throughout that half an hour. So let us know, send us a message if you'd like to be involved in that. Each week, Deb brings you Divine Relationship Recovery on Wednesdays at 5 o'clock. And each week I bring Gratitude Happy Hour on Tuesdays at 5 o'clock, where we talk about healing emotionally after a trauma. I feel like I'm missing some things, but I know that's the main things that we are offering on an ongoing basis at Enlightened World. And we're so happy to be teamed up with Speak Up and Empower. And if you haven't liked our page yet at Speak Up and Empower Spiritual Transformation, please go do that, because you'll see every time Deb goes live on Wednesdays and when I go live on Tuesdays. So thank you again for being here. I'm so grateful to be sitting here beside of Deb Goldberg, who is one of my people that I look up to. She's a mentor for me and a friend and soul sister. Deb, I love you so much, and I can't wait to have this discussion and interaction with you today.
Oh, thank you, Terry. You are a beautiful soul, and I am so thankful and feel the same way about you. I'm so glad that we could bring these shows together, the 3 of us, to what's really our passion and what Enlightened World Network stands for, is sharing as much information, education, love, joy to everyone. I wanted to give people the call-in phone number for today for our show, and because you can call in with the phone number, or you can actually write any questions that you might have in the Facebook chat. We can take questions from there too. But the phone number is 1-646-876-9923. And I'll give that to you again. It's 1-646-876-9923. And there's a web ID number too that you would have to put in for the phone call. And that one is 954-5515694. Now these are also posted in on top of this video on Facebook. So you can always scroll through that and you will find those phone numbers. Before we get started, let's take a deep breath and let's just set an intention for grounding and connecting to divine love. I really like to do this because I know that when I am learning new things, I do so much better when I am open to learning rather than being closed. And having divine support to help me not just learn things, but also as I'm speaking right now. So let's take a moment and close our eyes and breathe in deeply through your nose and release your breath out through your mouth. And continue to take some of those deep breaths, blowing in, taking it in through your nose and out through your mouth. And let's set our intention today for expansion of our heart space and mind. We want to allow in divine love and let it hold you in great joy, and allowing this love to penetrate you. This love comes into your heart, it fills your whole body. And keep breathing in with more expansion. Knowing that divine love walks together with you, as you, through your life. So open to hearing and reflecting today of what you're learning. Any thoughts that come to your mind about what I'm saying? So a lot of it is actually metaphysical, and so it can be confusing at times, but we're here to take those questions. And if you have paper and pen, that would be great too, to take some notes as well. I know that's something that I like to do. So today's topic is your partner is your mirror, your counterpart. And it's funny because you can say, well, I don't think so. They're different. I'm not like them. They're not like me. But in a sense, they are. Each person is having their own experience, and it's through the context of their own story. So I'm having my own story, Terry's having her own story, Ruth is having her story. Each one of us are having our own story. And the way we experience it is through the experiences that we have and our belief systems, what we've been programmed. And we've all been programmed in our society by family, by culture, religion, all kinds of things. We're programmed from the get-go as soon as we are born. So even though each person has their own story, their own personality, they are also a mirror image of you. And so that you are going to see aspects of yourself. So we're looking at your internal dynamic, what your thoughts are, what your belief system is, what are things that lie in your conscious and unconscious mind, what are things that you haven't healed yet. And a lot of it is also your divine self that you see in other people that you don't embrace either. So you're seeing your wholeness of the complexity of who you are in other people. So what's great about a relationship, and you know, if you don't have a spouse or a partner, you do usually have either friends or family members or coworkers, people that are around you a lot. And so they get to be kind of your mirror, who you are bouncing off of. And so I know that I have some people that I see a lot of divine aspects in, and then I see, and everything is divine aspects. There is nothing that cannot be a divine aspect, but we've all learned to label things as good or bad, and even emotions. Like when we have certain emotions like anger or sadness, things that feel uncomfortable, grief, we label them bad, but they're actually just part of our experience. So, Terry, do you have anybody that you're you can bounce off of, that you spend time with, or even just random people that you come in contact with, that you see as your mirror?
I think with pretty much everybody I interact with, um, on a personal basis, not online. Sometimes that happens online too. But those people we come into contact with, we can feel their energy so strongly. And what happens then is we start to see where we're triggered. And those triggers happen as they're being a mirror for things that need to come up with us, things that need to come up to be healed. So, yeah, as I with my friends here locally where I live, when I travel and I'm with friends that I know and I'm close to, my family. That's a big mirror right there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I see this happening every day, Deb, as I interact with people. Um, Not so much just like people I run into, like in the grocery store or whatever,
Mhm.
but people that I know their name and we carry on a conversation. That's where I see that happening, that they're a real mirror for
Mhm.
my life.
Mhm.
And I always think about you when I get triggered and I'm like, this is me. It's not them. This is me. That's something is coming up to be healed. So I try really hard to stay out of the judging
Mhm.
because that's what we go to, isn't it?
Mhm.
When we're triggered by something, we judge that in somebody else, and it's really us
Mhm.
that it's coming up to be healed for.
Right. Right. No, that's great. And I get triggered all the time too. And what's really interesting is when I first started to awaken, before that, I didn't even realize, I thought, okay, I'm getting triggered, but it's somebody else's fault, right? That it's,
Oh yeah,
they are causing this, not me,
it
right?
has to be them.
Yeah, yeah, they're causing me to feel
Yeah.
this way.
Hmm.
And so then you go through a process of realizing that, and this takes a while. And this is why it's so important to be in relationship with divine love, which I call God. And if I didn't have God and Jesus and the angels reminding me all the time that everything comes from me. Nothing's happening to me. Everything's happening within me. And we've heard this before. There's lots of coaches out there that talk about that. But, experiencing it and noticing that, hey, okay, every time I get triggered now, it can't be somebody else's fault. It has to be, where am I willing to take responsibility for this? And so our close relationships are so constructive in helping us move to a place of responsibility, self-responsibility, and taking responsibility for your thoughts, for your feelings, for your actions without blaming anyone else.
Hmm.
So part of when I first started to wake up, what I noticed is that I kept seeing different patterns coming through my life of just random things, but they were in victim consciousness type of patterns. Even going to the Verizon store to get a phone. I remember one day I was cutting out all these coupons because I thought I have to get the best deal, and I'm not going to go in that store and not get the best deal, and I'm going to have all these coupons that are going to save me from being a victim of paying full price, right? So
Right.
it
Yeah.
is so insidious, these patterns, that you don't realize they're in all parts of your thinking. And so I started seeing patterns and saying, okay, well, what I was taught is when you see the pattern, don't react to it. Like, step back and say, okay, what is this? Why am I having this feeling happening? I am allowed to feel my feelings, but I don't have to lash out. And so that took some practice time. And And so there's all these different stages of awakening that you go through. And each time you go to another stage, it becomes more expansive of what you see. So if you, and so most of us are still in a place of believing in duality, in the illusion. Now, if you haven't woken up yet, that might sound odd to you that we live in an illusionary world. But as you go through an awakening or an awareness process, and divine love is doing this with you all the time. And everybody has their own special moment when they wake up, when they become more aware. And it's perfect for you, and it is being coordinated with your creator. So as you keep going along, you will find out that not everything meets the eye. Not everything that's out there, nothing makes sense, first of all, but when you really look at the world, but you start saying, oh, well, you know, there's a lot more going on than what I thought. Sort of like when I started to wake up, I said, why? We live on a planet in the universe? How is that possible? Like, it's a sci-fi movie to me. Like, that doesn't even sound real, but we all accept it as reality, even though it makes no sense. And so what you come to find is lots of things don't make sense, and that the awakening awareness process keeps happening. So then we start to go into this, oh, there's a duality, there's an illusion of life. And then there's another stage after that where there are no longer mirrors. All the mirrors turn to glass because you are now seeing through the eyes of God. And what you're seeing, you are no longer reacting and responding to the illusion anymore. It becomes faded away. And you now see everything as a piece of glass, which is just love and joy and peace and beauty. You don't see all of the other stuff. And if you do, you know what it is. You just know that it is part of the illusion of duality. But most of us are not there yet. Most of us are still looking in the mirrors because we're still in that process. And so these mirrors with your loved ones or close friends are just amazing for you to start seeing you. So I love using my husband as an example because
is he aware of this?
Yes, I've written about our stories in my book. And,
okay.
And he knows I talk about him, and I think it's just awesome that he doesn't mind because I think, you know, your own experiences really help other people understand.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things there's thousands of them that happen between us all the time, and the one of them was about anger. So what I learned about myself is I didn't like the feeling of anger. Okay. And so I don't like expressing it. I would rather shove it down. And you know, that's old programming too, growing up saying, oh, good girls don't do this. You don't share your anger, you don't express it. And in the household I lived in, that was very clearly made that you don't even express, don't cry, don't even speak. So you learn to shove everything down. But when you go through an ascension process of awakening, all of that stuff needs to get cleared out. So everybody, your family, your friends, everybody around you, your coworkers, they're all there helping you see what needs to get cleared out. So, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And Deb, there's so much of my story that's so similar to yours. And I think that's something that a lot of people will resonate with, not being able to express themselves in their younger years growing up. I could never show anger. It just wasn't allowed. And if I ever did, then it wasn't pleasant. So I understand that. And that has been something that's been throughout my life up to this point, is just really not being able to express that anger outwardly.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally understand. Now, how does Brian deal with that, with your anger, and what happens when you stuff that down in
Mm-hmm.
your relationship with him?
Well, it was funny because something Barbara DeAngelis taught me, who's just an awesome teacher, is she describes it as you keep stuffing down your emotions, the energy has to go somewhere. So it starts to come up usually in your spouse or whoever's around you all the time. So the energy, as it gets shoved down, then it blows in the next person, that because you're stuffing that energy, it has to come out. But when I started, recognizing, so I would see my husband is angry all the time, and I was like, okay, this is also a projection from growing up because my dad was angry a lot. So I say, okay, there's a projection going on here, but okay, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm experiencing right now. And I went to this place and thinking that, well, was he allowed to get angry? Was he allowed to blow? Right? I don't do that. I don't blow like that. That's not nice, right? So when I started to like really look at what am I saying to myself, that I am not, like, anger's not good, it's not right, okay, and that it's nice not to express it, that you just shove it down, right? So then you're not being genuine either, right? But we're not taught this. We're taught to modulate. We're taught to be who you think somebody else wants to see, right? And so I don't blame my parents for anything anymore. I have done so much healing with all of that and forgiveness, and knowing that, you know, a lot of that generation came from parents from European parenting, and it was much more strict. It is what it is. And so you grew up in a much more strict environment. And of course, things have changed over time, which is good.
And
yeah.
I used to say they're doing the best they could with what they had.
Yes.
And, you know, it's their upbringing that follows through. But we can break that pattern.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think you're working very hard on that, aren't you?
Yes, I am. So, you know, so I would watch Brian, and then I would notice all of these thoughts that would come up. And then I'm like, well, he's expressing all the anger that I'm not willing to express. And it's magnified. So whoever your teacher is, it's magnified. And so it's like all the time, right? And I'm like, what is this? Oh, okay, I get it. I'm not expressing when I feel angry. Now, another part of growing is understanding the role of the ego in how it plays out in your life. And there's so much of it, and it is there for a reason, and it's purposeful. But you can get into spiritual ego type of thinking. And spiritual ego could be things like, oh, I'm better than, or that type of thinking. So then I started watching myself thinking, and you have to really pay attention to yourself. When you are learning to master your internal world, you need to understand what is going on in your head and in your feelings. And so you're preoccupied with yourself, but it's in a different way. So I noticed, oh, here's some thoughts saying, well, all of these teachers tell me, you know, like, anger is not good. Well, I know anger is not good. If you stay in anger or hatred, that it's toxic. But if you have a feeling of anger, expressing it appropriately and feeling it, there's nothing wrong with it. But then here's the spiritual ego telling me, well, you know better than that. You know that it's not even real. You know that this is an illusion. So you can just take that anger and just go put it over here. Goodbye. right? So then you're not feeling it. And we are here as alchemists to take all of the energy that we think is going on inside of us, and we are to transmute and transform it to love. So in feeling it helps you process it through and understand, well, okay, well, what made me angry anyway? Some people tell you that you don't have to worry about what or why is creating it. I'm somebody that likes to know, well, what got triggered there? So I will do some more work to see if there is another part of me holding on to a belief system that's just not true, and it needs some love and compassion. I need some love and compassion, and to give it to me. Does that make sense?
Oh, it absolutely does. It does. And what happens is we start acknowledging our emotions. And that's the beginning of really healing them and seeing this isn't working for me anymore. It doesn't work to stuff down my anger. It needs to have a voice, and not a constant voice, but it needs to express what it's all about. And like you said, what was it that created that trigger? So yeah, the first part, just seeing those emotions there and saying, oh, hello, you're a part of me. Let's get to know each other.
Yeah.
And that's a healthy way to deal with it.
Right, right. And it's very healthy because we have to feel our emotions. One of the questions I remember, as over the last 5.5 years since Jesus woke me up, I asked questions like, why do I even have to feel? Why can't I just feel joy and love all the time? You tell me I'm spirit and that spirit's just joy and love. Why can't I just feel that or be that? Because it's a state of being. And he said, you wouldn't be here right now. You would not be here right now, Deb, if that's all you experienced. And the human experience, he said, I never expect anyone not to feel.
Yeah.
That we're not here to transcend our humanity. We're here to just accept our divinity and understand the perfection of who we are as we are, exactly how we are, whether we're angry or happy or sad or both. You say you can't feel both feelings at the same time. However, I have been in places where within myself where I can feel joy and I can also have a heavy heart at the same time because I'm having compassion for somebody. So you can feel mixed emotions. It's learning how to process all of it at the same time. So in talking about Brian, I learned that, okay, he gets angry. And so then here comes another part of me that goes, oh my gosh, she's angry. Are we okay? Are we okay? Because he's angry. So here's this little part that's saying, I have to make him happy. I don't want him to be angry. I want him to be happy so then I know that he's okay and I'm okay and we're okay. And so unless you're paying attention, you don't start to see all of these thoughts that you have. You just react to what's going on in the moment.
Yeah, very good point, Deb. And isn't that where we get into the habit of people pleasing? We're putting other people's happiness, other people's joy above our own. Because like you said, we want them to feel good. We want them to be happy. And sometimes we're sitting there steaming, but we're not expressing it. Okay. So yeah, that's where the people pleasing stuff comes in.
Yeah, and it's learning not to be genuine. It's a continuation of not being your genuine self because you think that there's something wrong with you feeling the way that you're feeling. Jesus would say to us, I didn't even understand when I started to feel. Like I had been numb for so long. I was just happy with doing what I was doing, and I had shoved everything else down. And so when all my feelings started to come back, I didn't even know if it was right. I was saying, I'm like, should I feel this way? Is this the right way to feel about this particular topic or situation? And he said, Deb, what's wrong with your feelings? And I'm like, I don't know. I was never allowed to have them because, and then I just thought they were not right. And he said, there's nothing wrong with your feelings. And what freedom. This is what divine love does. Divine love, it is so soothing and unconditional and embracing, and it's magnificent in allowing you to help understand the truth of who you are and all the things that you question and that you still question because you're human. You still question all of this stuff. And so to have that making your heart light all the time and holding you in such grace, it just never ends. So you practice being you within the comfort and safety of God's arms. It's magnificent. So, you know, I also didn't know how to comfort myself when I started to, okay, here's this little self telling me she's hurt because of something that Brian said or the way that I took it, my perception, a younger perception, tying it to other experiences that I had and not really seeing the moment for what it was. And that is another thing that divine love does, is help you integrate all these aspects of yourself that know that you have some areas that are sensitive, and it's okay. I'm very sensitive. I have parts of me that are very sensitive. I could cry at a drop of a hat. So it is learning to embrace all of these. And as you get stronger and more confident, you become the mom over all of these different aspects of yourself. So in looking at your relationship, I'm like, okay, now here's another lesson. Brian's angry. It doesn't have to do with anything with me either at times. Maybe I'm not shoving down anger, but he's got triggered and now he's in his delusion of thinking he's upset over something that's happened, okay? And now it's my turn to not fear it, not fear his anger, but how can I stand up and not run away from it and be compassionate and loving and try to understand what he's going through at the moment. And I will tell you, this is an everyday practice. This is not something that we just, here you go, you just get that one. You have to practice these things. And also not join him in his delusion, which I talked about before. Every time we start getting sucked into some of these negative feelings, we now are sucked into some kind of delusion that we believe something's happening when it's not really happening. Or we don't understand the expansiveness of what is happening. We're only seeing it one way. We're only seeing it through limited perception.
Yeah, I call that tunnel vision.
Yeah, complete tunnel vision. And it comes and goes, and you can have it in all different, on and off during the day through all of your experiences. So your relationships are teaching you so much about yourself if you're willing to open and really understand more of you. That there's nobody to blame. This is actually, the mirrors are helping you remove things that actually keep your heart closed and actually keep you from being who you were created to be. Because your fears are all controlling everything. This is another area that I learned in watching Brian is anger. I had to understand that maybe I wasn't looking at anger. I was calling it anger because it looked like anger, but it was coming from a place of fear. Fear triggered the anger. Fear is what the issue is, and it triggered a response of anger. And this happens to me too. When I would get scared, and this is the difference between scared and fearful, is when I would get scared, I would overreact to it. And maybe I would overreact to it with anger because I'd want to take control. When we get scared and fearful, we feel powerless and we feel out of control. So for me, what I learned too is watching him, which is watching me, is that I didn't have enough compassion if I thought somebody was fearful. I had more compassion if I used the word scared. It elicited so much more from me. It's like, oh, they're just scared, and this is their response to being scared. And it's anger because they feel out of control. And that triggered another thing for me, is that I didn't want to feel anger because I felt out of control. Because whenever I saw anger growing up, it was out of control. You don't know how to be angry and still be in control. So many levels of learning, so many.
Yeah, Deb, I want to go back to a point you were making earlier about we're always looking outside of us, aren't we? We're always seeing things out there that we say, oh, that needs to be fixed. You know, that needs to be better. And we're looking for like a superhero to come in and make things better. What we're seeing is different aspects of ourselves, right? We're seeing things that we're criticizing or judging out there, and it's really in here. So that superhero that we keep waiting for, that we keep thinking, oh, they're just going to come in and make it all better, and I'll feel better, and they'll feel better. But it's really that superhero is us. It's what's inside of us.
Yeah.
And the change has to come from inside before anything external of us that we perceive as external is going to change. And we project, don't we? We project things on people. And I think in relationships especially, you were talking about that earlier. It's like, oh, he's angry, you know, and you feel whatever's going on in you as being projected is what is going on in him. And it may be something totally different.
Yeah.
So we do that. We project, and then we look out there and we say, why doesn't somebody take care of this?
Yeah. Or I want them to change.
Yeah.
I want them to change instead of you changing. And you can heal your marriage, you can heal any relationship by healing yourself, by clearing out all of the beliefs, the faulty beliefs, and healing those experiences or traumas that hurt you, that you now have beliefs attached to those things. So the more you do this, you can heal any relationship that you have. And you know, I was thinking about the superhero because for me, my superhero is God and Jesus and the angels, because they pulled me out of somewhere that I didn't even know that I was somewhere. I had no idea. I was in a tunnel somewhere. I was somewhere. I was living in a tunnel. and if they had not pulled me out of that, if Jesus didn't wake me up, I would have not known anything different. So I felt rescued. I thank God every day for Jesus waking me up, every single day. It means so much to me to understand divine truth and to see this world and me through that. So, that superhero, that rescuing from divine love gives you the ability to have confidence so that you become the superhero, that you are confident in yourself because you are getting fed that by unconditional love all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
with that change has to start from inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to want it. You really, really have to want it. Because it was funny, I would say to Jesus sometimes, why do I have to do all this work? Why do I have to clean everything out? Why do I have to look at every single thing and pull it out and look at it and say, what is this? And I'm like, there's other people that are out there and they're zen and they're happy and they're not pulling all this stuff out. He said, because of what you have to do, what you are going to do, you have to do this work. And I said, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I hear you.
It's got big plans for you, lady.
Yeah, big plans. So, another thing that I learned from watching my husband is I kept thinking, why is there conflict? Why am I having conflict in my marriage? I don't want conflict in my marriage. But growing up, that's all I saw in my families is
Right.
my parents and their marriage, and they got divorced, and then there was conflict in those other marriages. So and I had conflict with my parents individually. So there was conflict in all of my family orientation, all of those relationships, and there was conflict within myself. And a lot of it was growing up feeling like I had love withheld from me. So then you project that onto your partner, but actually it's really you that is actually withholding the love. You are the one withholding the love. And I started thinking about this. My first marriage, my ex-husband worked a lot, okay, and he wasn't home very often, and I didn't realize it at the time because I was in my 20s. I was young, and I was like, I just felt so alone, and why wasn't he home? And I had 2 children, and I realized that he had just as much as a fear of intimacy. I didn't learn this until later of understanding this within myself. I was looking at my own fear of intimacy,
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't know how to get close to another person. And on some level, it was okay that he was away, but on another, I didn't know how to fulfill myself with love. I was looking for somebody else to do it. And so his detachment was my detachment. But, it took me 30 years to see that. Everything you see is a mirror of yourself. I'm like, well, why is he acting like, oh, that's because I'm actually doing it on some other level. I'm putting a wall up. I'm not letting him in. Okay. And so the conflict, when I look back at all these relationships, I thought, well, maybe I feel like I don't deserve a happy relationship. Maybe I don't feel like it's possible. Maybe I feel like that's what my expectation is, rather than knowing that I am worthy of having a loving, joyful, happy relationship. And as soon as I started to really start working on that, my marriage shifted. It just shifts. The energy just shifts because it's all coming from you. You have so much power, and God wants everybody to just be happy. And we keep taking it away. The ego, listening to the ego kind of strips that away a lot, and believing faulty things and believing that other people are responsible for your happiness. But this is really taking full responsibility that whatever's going on in your relationship has to do with you.
It does. It does. And sometimes we don't want to look at that, do we?
Mm-mm. No,
Yeah,
it's easy.
it's
You know,
hard.
it is hard. You know, sometimes they say to people, you know, you want a divorce from your spouse, but you're just getting a divorce from yourself.
Yeah.
You're getting a divorce from yourself because these are aspects within yourself that you don't want to deal with, or that not that you don't want to deal with, maybe you're just not awake or aware that you're dealing, that that person is a perfect partner for you. It's a holy union. God says it's all unions are with him. He's the mirror helping you see these parts of yourself, your consciousness, your unconsciousness that needs to be worked on, to be healed, of thinking things about yourself and other people that are not true. So, you know, I'm all for trying to work things out if you can. If they don't, they don't. There's nothing that says you have to stay with somebody or not stay with someone. But it's really when you decide it's over. Did I finish this lesson? Did I get everything from it that I needed to, understanding that all of this came from within me?
Right. Good point, Deb. Deb, we do have a question from someone. Would you like to take that now?
Sure.
Okay, it's Kimberly, who joins us regularly. Thank you, Kimberly, for being here. And she says, I'd love to hear more about the transition of mirrors to viewing life through glass. Can you give examples of how you witnessed this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's not a state that I am able to stay in all the time. It's a process. It's part of the ascension that we're doing. The more you spend time with divine love, the more that you start seeing yourself as perfection. And the more that you stay in your heart, the more that you remember what you're taught. And for me, it is that the only thing that's true is love, that nothing else exists. And when you are feeling the state of unconditional love all the time, it is easy then to just see the beauty and perfection in the world and in each person, that you're not, that even if you would say somebody is acting like their ego, which is, it's part of what each person is dealing with, is are these aspects that are there as part of the illusion to create a personality. The more that you accept yourself, your wholeness, and everything that you are,
Mm-hmm.
then you start seeing the world that way. And so everything is beautiful. Everything is God. All you're seeing outside of yourself is a snapshot of your consciousness. And this illusion's been created for us. Jesus told me that God, you know, this illusion has been created for us. So when you are not focusing on the angst of life, and you're focused on the perfection of yourself, then you will see it outside of yourself, and it's no longer a mirror. Everything you see is magic. It is pure magic, and it's just like looking through glass. Sometimes I sit in my office and I have a big window right to the side of me, and you know, it's been snowing on and off at times, and I feel like I'm sitting in a snow globe in my office, and that the whole outside world is just beautiful. So you can use your imagination to almost see times when you can feel that way. You feel that way when you hold a newborn baby, right? When you maybe smell a flower, when something wonderful happens, that your heart is in a much more expansive place. But it is a process of being able to hold that longer and longer and longer times as you go along. And that's not something I have been able to achieve myself. I get glimpses of it, And when it happens, it's magical. I've taken, when I finished writing some of my books, Jesus asked me to take an honorary walk for the work that I did. And because I would never honor myself, I was like, okay, all right, what's the next thing? And instead of just saying, wow, I just sat with him for 6 weeks and he gave me 3 books that I committed to. It was like, he's like, no, you need to go take an honorary walk. Let's walk. And I swear to God, I walked down the street and the birds were just lined up on the wires, singing their hearts out. And the trees were bowing. The trees were bowing as I walked by. I am telling you that this life is pure magic. It is beautiful. It is whatever you want your mind to make it. And we're clearing out our mind not to believe things that are part of the illusion of duality. It is pure love. I hope that answers the question.
I think it did. What I'm hearing from you, Deb, is, well, what it brings up is the quote by Dr. Wayne Dyer. It's all about perspective. When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. So looking at something with that new perspective that we gain from knowing ourselves better, from going inside and dealing with the emotions and really healing from the traumas of our life, anything that we've been through that's created that space of not feeling safe or being criticized or whatever it was. When we healed that, and then we look back at those things that were like a real mirror to us, then we see them as beautiful. We see them as the angels like to tell me, they're perfectly imperfect. And there's nothing to be healed. There's nothing to be fixed. You just accept it for what it is. And it is a creation of God. And when we can realize that, then that changes everything. It really does.
It does. You said that beautifully. You said it beautifully. And it's funny, when I've caught myself doing things that I think that, I don't know if this is really the best thing I should be doing right now. God says, it's okay. He goes, you're so cute. This is what God said. You're so cute, Deb.
Yes.
So cute. It's okay. He goes, this is a little girl doing something, right? And there's absolutely no judgment. And so when you can grow in that environment of safety and intimacy and love, you have no idea what you can become.
Yeah, absolutely. So beautiful. We do have one other question. Do you want to take another question? Do we have time?
Yeah.
Okay, this is from Ina. I hope I'm saying that right. Ina asked, how do I recover from my previous relationships that were very traumatizing?
That's a great question.
It is.
And actually, Terry does a show on that on Tuesdays in Gratitude Happy Hour. She deals with trauma. I did not deal with my trauma for 56 years because I think I had trauma just from being born. We all have trauma just from believing that we're separated from God. That in itself is a trauma. So everybody has that trauma, whether they acknowledge it or not. And when I was born, I had a bone disease. So from the get-go, there was trauma. Now, I was not able to heal until I had a relationship with Jesus and God. And I'm talking about a universal type of love relationship. It has nothing to do with religion. If you have a religious belief and that is the way that you connect with God or Jesus or whoever it is that you believe, then you do it that way. For me, it was pure love that sat with me and dissected all of the traumas that I went through. And a lot of inner child work that I was taught to do. And then Jesus and God did that with me. They did the inner child work with each part of myself that needed healing from growing up. And so that is not, I was a therapist for 18 years. And the type of healing that happens from what I would do with a client is not the same as when it's done through divine love. I'm sorry. There is nothing that heals like divine love. Because there's stages and layers of forgiveness that needs to happen, and it doesn't happen overnight. You do it a little bit at a time, and your hand is held the whole time. So it is so important to have this intimate relationship with whomever it is that you believe is your creator, to walk you through, because this is about having conversations. It is not just, I'm praying. This is, I need to hear you. I want to hear you. I need my heart healed. And I need you to help me do this because I don't know how. And when you come to God with that kind of vulnerability of opening your heart, that is when God steps in. You have to ask, although God is there all the time, your will needs to ask for it. And so this is the way that I healed. There's great clinicians out there that can help you, but there is not the same type of healing that you get from God.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I know we really feel for you with that, with having something that was traumatic to heal from. I would suggest that you start working on your solar plexus. And the way you will do that is to tell yourself every day, I am worthy. I deserve good things, until you build up that energy there. And you may not believe it when you first start saying it, but the more you tell yourself how loved you are, how worthy you are, that it's your birthright to have fun and enjoy this life that you came into. And that's a beginning. That's a beginning. When you start doing that and you start feeling some of your power back again, then you can tackle those emotions. As we talked about earlier in this show, it's so important to acknowledge those emotions that you're feeling and not keep them stuffed down inside, and not let that be what's running your life. Take your power back. That's what I want to say to you. Take your power back and then start going forward from there.
That's beautiful advice, Terry. Thank you. That's so important, because you don't realize how much you get sucked into a victim consciousness. And when you're still in trauma, there's stages of trauma and where you feel like you're a victim, then survivor, then thriver. And so moving out of victim consciousness, we can't understand why these things happen. And when you sit and try to figure it out, you're not healing. It's accepting and allowing. This is what occurred. I can't change it, but I can heal from it. And I can not let it define me as a person. It is an experience. It is not who you are. But your little inner children inside of you don't know that. And so the healing process has to be with them, of you learning self-love, and then being able to bring all that love and compassion to yourself. And God wants an intimate relationship with every single person, and you have to ask. You have to invite God to participate in and you being aware. God is always participating, but it's about you doing it together, co-creating, healing with his help, or whatever you call God. I call it he, because that's the way I experience him. And so I think that start asking for help from within, even your higher self. For those people who do not believe in any kind of divine power, you do have a highest part of yourself. And that highest part of you, it has to do with your integrity, your morality. That part of you hears you. It is you. And so if you're not feeling like you can connect divinely, you are to ask your higher self to help you.
Yes, absolutely. And for any of you who are dealing with things, that you really don't know how to deal with, please go to enlightenedworld.online. All of our shows are there. Deb has done amazing shows on divine relationship recovery. So go look at some of those older shows that have been done. This is not an old program, but there's a few shows that are really packed full of power. So go find her show on there. Go find my show, which is Healing Emotionally from After Trauma, and the things that have been discussed on there. There's a whole library in there of things and resources for you to pull from. So I encourage everyone to go check out that website. Again, it's enlightenedworld.online. And you can find all the videos of all the shows that have been done on there. And I hope that you'll find that one jewel that speaks to your heart and that helps you. Deb, I believe that this show went really fast today.
It did. And I always wonder, where is it going to go? What am I going to do? I mean, I have a starting point, but I think we talked about a lot of really great things for people to understand their relationship in such a different way and themselves. And I look forward to you continuing to join me, and so that I can help share out what I have learned, and in my healing and in my relationships, so that you can actually have more quality of life, and learn how to do that. And you can. It comes from within you. And I'm so grateful, Terry, for you being here with me and adding all of your beautiful wisdom to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be with you. Deb, how can people reach out to you if they want more information or want maybe to work with you one-on-one?
Sure.
I know you do that. Yes. So how does someone with questions or just searching, how do they find you?
Well, you can find me. My website is debbiengoldberg.com. And you can also find me on Facebook at Deb Goldberg. You can private message me, and or reach out through my website, and it will send me a message. So hopefully, please connect. I'm willing to work with you and help you in any way that I can.
Beautiful. Thank you, Deb. And thank you to everyone that was watching. If you got value from this today, please share it and let people know that this happens every week, every Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Deb Goldberg with Divine Relationship Recovery. And it's on Enlightened World Network on Facebook. And it's also on Real Talk, Spiritual Transformation at Speak Up and Empower on Facebook. So Deb, I think with that, we can say goodnight.
Yes, we can say goodnight, and God bless everyone.
Yeah.
Love you.
You're in our hearts.
Yes, very much. You're not alone.
No.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Ah.